commit.
Il Presidente ha chiesto di...
President Merkel has asked to speak after this round from the group presidents.
Prego.
Go ahead, please.
Ja, Herr Präsident,
President, honourable members, I think I can be brief, and I'd like to begin by thanking all those who've expressed words of congratulations and well wishes. This is, of course, a challenge not just for the member states, but it's about cooperation with the European Parliament, and I think in the debate it's become very clear that different ideas abound when it comes to the objectives we need to achieve, and that's the same for heads of state and government. It's not going to be just about heads of state and government deciding on their own. We'll have to come together if we want to decide things. Now, let me be clear. I spoke about the rule of law and fundamental rights. These, of course, represent a top priority for the Council presidency. Nevertheless, we need to establish a basis for work in future. So we have the MFF and the Recovery Fund. And as I said to the President of the Parliament, I think it will be essential that we can arrive at a compromise and that we see a willingness to compromise in this respect. There are diverging positions amongst the member states too, as it stands. Any kind of absolute demands from individuals is not something I could entertain, and that's not compatible with tolerance and democracy, and it will not lead us to any kind of solution, and I'd like to say that very clearly. We will have to discuss very difficult topics. You've mentioned the issue of own resources. Perhaps I could mention one aspect of this, and this is a priority for the European Parliament, of course, on the one hand, but on the other hand, the resources that may be categorized as own resources right now by the European Commission already exist in national budgets as own resources. That's something we have to take into account. And also, in difficult economic times, we should not be establishing tax increases in an factually incorrect way, with the outcome of overall increased tax burden, which would not be desirable in this current economic crisis. Now, a tax should always be agreed globally, and that would always be preferable. So I think the principle of trying to see the OECD talks to the end first is something that I can stand by. And yet, if no solution is in sight in that forum, then we in Europe must come together to try and find a solution. When it comes to digitalization and a new form of economic model, we cannot allow that sector to completely escape taxation. When it comes to tax havens, we've done a great deal of work, but applying the same principle to digital taxation is proving to be very complex. We need to clearly distinguish between the global financial and economic crisis and the current pandemic. No one questions the fact that all of us, every member state, is acting in a competitive climate, and we can only be effective if we are on a solid foundation. We don't want to be vulnerable due to excessive debt. So I think it was right that reforms were implemented in certain member states, but accompanied with solidarity. And I'm thinking here about the ESM and many other measures. The crisis we face today is not a crisis that was caused by any member state. It is a virus that simply appeared. No one could predict it, and it hit different countries in different ways. And I think, given this, we need different instruments and a different response, and that's why I support the Recovery Fund. Thank you.